Interview with Layton Savary, November 14th, 2000, Conway. Interviewer, Cindy Graham. Okay, I think we're all set.
So, you want my name first?
Yep, going to start with,
okay.
What's your full name?
My name is Layton Savary, and I was born in 1927, and just outside of Digby, a little ways.
Oh.
Okay?
Yep.
In my grandmother's house, one of 11 children.
Wow.
And in March. So I don't remember it, but.
So when you say just outside of Digby, where was that exactly?
Well, just where Conway started, just over the Digby line.
Which is?
Where Holly Mount lives. That house.
Holly Mount?
Yeah, that house there.
Yes.
That's my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Holly Mount, but I don't know which is her house, actually.
It's a big house just above where Mabel had her place there.
Behind it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, big house there.
That was and still is the line for Digby and Conway?
Well, it used to be.
Yeah.
The line was just past that motel a ways.
Yeah.
Right there. That was the end of the line for Digby town. Because when I was small, I first remember my father built a house there, just in the Digby limits there.
Yeah.
And in the 30s, there was a lot of bums or hobos, whatever you call them, would ride the trains into Digby, and or sneak over on the boat, and they'd catch him in the town, and the town cop would bring him out to the town limits, and he'd drop him off there. And my mother would get scared, and she'd say, "Why you leave him here for?" He said, "Well, this is as far as my jurisdiction takes me. This is as far as I go." And he'd drop him off there and say, "Okay, now stay out of town." So there they were, at the edge of town, right in front of our house. Of course, we didn't know. We were small kids. We didn't mind.
Were you fascinated by these strangers?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever make friends with some of them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, we used to talk with them. And my mother was scared to death of them. She'd holler, "Don't go near them," you know. But they were friendly. They were just guys out of work looking, traveling around Canada, looking for work, bumming around. Of course, those days the road wasn't paved or nothing. It was all gravel road. And they'd keep it going for Yarmouth. And any local prostitutes or whatever was the same way. They just escort them out of town and drop them off there.
Did they sometimes come knocking on your door?
Oh yeah, they sometimes they'd say, "Hey kid, go in and tell your mother to give you a sandwich and bring it out to us," you know. We tried that, but it didn't work because nobody was very rich those days.
Yeah. So this was during the Depression?
Yeah, things are kind of tough. Well, it's in 31, 32, along there, 1931, 32,
yeah.
30, 31, 32. I can remember back that far, and it just starting to remember pretty good. And there wasn't too many cars in those days, and the street lights and like that, they were generally shut off after dark, after 6 o'clock, I think it was.
Yeah.
The hydro used to shut down.
So that house, right outside of town, that was Conway.
Yeah.
And what was Conway like? What kind of little place was it?
Well, it wasn't very many houses there.
No?
No, not too many. The only thing in Conway was Larchie's milk business. That's about the only thing that was there. That was anything at all.
Larchie's milk?
Yeah, his father had a milk business, Jersey Farms.
Oh, yeah.
He had Jersey cows. He had about 30 of them.
Yeah.
And they milked them by hand. And he peddled milk, the old feller. Then he hired another guy to do it. They peddled milk, and then when we went to school, they used to take milk to the school in the kindergarten classes and grade 1 and so on. That kids that didn't get enough milk, they figured, well, they gave milk to the school.
Yeah.
And of course, there was quite a few people that sold milk those days.
Yeah.
There's quite a few farmers around.
Yeah.
There was some from Mount Pleasant, and there was some down Barton, Brighton, and there was Archie from Conway.
And I think today there's not one single dairy farmer in Digby County.
No, they put them out of business. Everything had to be pasteurized, and it cost too much to buy the machines. So well then, over by the Pines Hotel, there was a Jefferson feller had a farm there, and he peddled milk.
Yes.
And he cut ice in the winter. But when he had a guy working for him, that was sort of a comedian, and in the winter time, he had a few cows. He said to him one night, it was cold as the devil at night. He said, go out and take the horse blanket and put it on the best cow we got. So he went out and put it on the water pump. And he fired him. And that, of course, everybody do that all around town. Everybody were that. Later on, that Jefferson fella, he was kind of a, not, anyway, he hung himself here a few years later.
Oh.
Over there in the Knights of Columbus building. He built that and went in the hole. He had too much going. And he hung himself in that building. But everybody laughed over that. You're watering the milk. But they had ice in the summer. Oh yes, and Will Franklin had a big ice pond also. He cut ice and sold it. He had 2 big ice houses out there, and they were full of ice. He peddled ice all summer around Digby.
So people bought the ice?
Oh yeah.
In our interviews down the neck, the ice houses primarily were putting up ice for the fish plants.
Yeah, they done it for the fish plants.
To the houses.
Yeah, because they had one along there by Lake Midway, I remember.
Yep.
And ice. I worked for Franklin one summer for about a couple of weeks, peddling ice.
Yep.
And I used to get the devil from a lot of them women walking over their floor with a cake of ice and dribbling the ice.
Dripping?
and dropping the ice too quick in them old ice chests.
So, because they were heavy.
It is heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
I could never catch on to that, slinging a cake of ice up and letting it go. I always dropped it. There was a trick to it.
So, can you describe the whole ice making process?
Well,
ice ponds, were they man-made?
Yeah, they used to. Yeah, they let it freeze. And the funny thing was, those days the ice froze down about a foot thick or better. And we used to skate on the ice. And they'd come down and they'd take an auger and they'd drill a hole.
Yes. Then
they'd shove their rule down through it and measure, see how thick it was. When it got to be 10 inches or a foot, then they'd mark it. They had a marker, a big steel thing with a something like a bunch of arrows on it.
Yeah.
And it marked the ice. Mm-hmm. About 14 inches roughly wide. They'd haul that across as markers, and that marked quite deep. It was heavy. They'd haul that across with their horses, and then they'd chop that with they had a long steel spade on a pole.
Yeah.
And that would break off where they marked it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had pike poles. They'd haul it in and take it into the ice house and put it a layer of sawdust and a layer of ice and a layer of sawdust and a layer of ice till they filled the ice house. And they'd done that all winter long, as long as it froze. And that would last about all summer. When summer comes, they'd be down about the last layer or two.
Yeah.
And it's surprising. Nowadays, it doesn't seem to freeze that thick. and he wouldn't get in the ice nowadays.
No.
And they cut ice there where the Legion is now in Digby. There was an ice pond there, big ice pond. They cut ice there. I don't know who had that one. There was an ice house there, back of that house that's there, on the corner. And they cut ice there and stacked it in there.
Why did they use horses instead of oxen on the ice ponds?
Well, the oxen are too slow and they're too heavy.
Yeah.
They're too heavy. The horse were lighter, and their shoes would, they'd cork their shoes better so they wouldn't slip.
Yeah.
And they could go better on the ice. But they used a single horse.
Yep.
They wouldn't use double, because a lot of times the horse and driver both get in the water.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't all that deep.
No.
They wouldn't be over 8 or 10 feet deep at the deepest.
So these ponds were made just
Yeah,
to be an ice pond
yeah,
most of the time.
they were ponds, and they just put the they dammed them up, and so they'd have the water for the winter.
Yeah.
Other times they let the water out in the summer.
Yeah.
Then they had the cranberries. You see, they used to grow around there, and they'd rake them in the fall. After they got those all in, then they'd put the dam back in, get the water, save the water again.
Oh,
it's all spring water.
Yeah.
It's still out there, the ponds are. But they don't have much water in them, it doesn't seem. But those are all tore down now, the ice houses.
When did the ice houses come to an end? Do you remember?
Oh, I think around the 50s. They were rotting out and they tore them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you were going around helping peddle ice?
Oh, about 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you remember what you got paid?
No, not too much.
No.
Not too much. I wasn't doing anything much, and they needed a helper. So he asked me if I'd, the owner asked me if I'd come and help for a while. I said, yeah, okay. See, the ward started pretty good and there was nobody around.
Yeah.
Nobody to work. So I said, okay. So I went over for a couple of weeks and worked with him. Then after that, and the owner one day, he went himself driving the truck, and I played a trick on him. There was one old lady, she was ugly. She always got after you, give you the devil before you left. It was raining too. And he said, we stopped in back of the old Myrtle House, the old hotel. There's some left of it there now. They're back of that service station on the corner, Bolivar's.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I said, they take a 20-cent piece in here. That was about half a cake of ice. And I said, over there, that lady over there takes about a small piece of ice, about 10 cents. He said, okay. So he chopped it up, and he went across. And he had his oilskins on, because it was raining. And I guess she lit onto him when he went in there across the floor with that ice. She gave him the devil. He come out and got in the truck and he said, do you ever go in there with ice? I said, yeah. He said, well, how do you find her? I said, she's a lovely lady. Oh, he said. Well, she wasn't today. He says, just like being home. So I got clear of her that day. But, some places were bad and some were good.
So how often would you go to each house a week? They need ice how
About
often?
1 day a week.
Yep.
Yeah, about 1 day. And the restaurants and the hotels were more often.
Yeah.
And they took bigger cakes of ice. But the restaurants were kind of, and the hotels were kind of bad because they had upright freezers, the big ones, and the ice had to go in on its edge. That was a hard job to get that thing in there on the edge. And some of them old ladies that were mean, boy. They'd wrap that ice in brown paper and newspaper and everything else, so to keep
Make
longer.
It last?
Yeah, make it last longer. But it still melted in those hot days. But I didn't care much about that job.
Was that your very first job?
No.
No.
No, I was working on the highways before that.
Yeah?
And really, I shouldn't have been, because they only took people of voting age, but they couldn't get anyone, you see. I was working and pick and shovel work and helping them patch pavement and so on. That's why I worked for him, because he was a highways man here for Digby County.
Yeah.
Engineer, so he knew me, see, so he knew I wasn't doing too much because I'd been working on the highway, and old political stuff, you couldn't work unless you voted their way and were old enough.
Yeah.
Plus, it took 6 months to get paid for it.
Wow.
But he was good to work for, though, personally.
Yeah.
And no, I worked there. Well, then, of course, when my father come home, I went back. I worked with him. He was a bricklayer, and I started working with him and started to learn my trade. And we traveled around the Maritimes working for L.E. Shaw Brick Company, and different places working.
Okay, let me backtrack a minute. What were your parents' names? Your mother and your father's names?
Russell Savary, and mother's name was Lisa Savary.
Russell and Lisa Savary?
Yeah.
And what was your mother's maiden name?
She was Winchester.
She was Winchester.
Yeah, well, she died when she was 40.
Yeah?
She died in 1940.
How old were you?
When she died, I was about 1940. I was.
You were born in 27.
Yeah.
Not very old.
No, I was 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your mom had 11 children.
Yeah.
And where did you fit in?
I was about. Let's see. There was two older than me that passed away when they were young, and then there was. I was a fourth. No. There's two passed away, and then there was 1, 2, 3.
Your father married again.
4. Yeah. Yes, I know, but I was the fourth one. Yeah, fourth. I'm wrong. There was the oldest one was a girl. She passed away when she was only a year old, I think. Mm-hmm. Pneumonia or something. Those days when you had something like that, you died with that.
Yep.
Pneumonia. And then there was another boy passed away, but he was, him and I were 10 months apart. Mm-hmm. He was older, but and my oldest brother, well, he passed away in 1970. It was him and another one. And I was fourth, yeah. Fifth. Okay. Fifth. Six, yeah.
Okay. So
and,
some were, but did your actual mother have the 11 children, or some of them?
Yes, she had 11 children, yeah.
So some of them were very young.
Yes.
Much younger than
yes.
you when she died.
My youngest sister was 6 months old.
Oh.
And she had cancer.
Your mother had cancer?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, those were hard old days because it was, you had to pay for everything. Doctors, hospitals, and the whole thing, you see.
Were you sick for quite a while before she died?
Yeah, about 2 years.
Wow.
And money was hard to get, and you couldn't get nothing without money. You know, you couldn't get anywhere. If you went to the hospital, it's the same old story. Who's paying for this? You know, how much are you worth, and so on and so forth. Different than today.
Yeah, so you must have some pretty strong opinions on how you'd like to see health care.
That's right.
Done in Canada.
Yeah, well, it's going to go back to that again, I guess, to the old days, the way it was. I know I went in the hospital once, stayed in the hallway for quite a while. Well, they found out insurance was paying for it. That was fine and dandy. Semi-private.
Yeah.
It was nice. But it was hard going, but
I would say it must have been.
a lot of people lived through it, because a lot of people didn't, too. Of course, it didn't cost too much for a doctor. A doctor come out see you for 50 cents or $1. Then in the winter, if you couldn't get it out, why, you'd have to get out and shovel the road out. But you didn't have to shovel it very wide. Just enough for a horse and a sleigh.
Can you remember your younger sisters and brothers being born?
Yeah.
Yeah? Were they born at home in that house?
No, in the Digby Hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know a younger brother was born, we couldn't get a taxi or nothing. There's a lot of snow. So we took my mother to the hospital on the sled. We had a big sled home there that we used to coast on. We took her to the hospital on that.
With you pulling? You pulling?
We were all our older brothers, myself.
Yeah.
We were all pulling and getting through the snow drifts. See, they didn't plow the roads those days because you had a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Some places the snow was up top of the poles. Of course, the poles weren't that high, but it's high enough that you had to go around through the fields and ditches and so on. But made the winter seem worse. Going to school in the winter those days was, you know, you really were going somewhere.
Yeah.
Most people didn't go.
Did you stop going in the wintertime?
Wintertime, you stopped going pretty well.
Where was the school for?
Well, I went to Digby first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and down the old school there in Digby is closed up there.
Where was that?
The old academy there by the courthouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we went to courthouse first. They had there was so many in that grade that we went to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few of us. And then after a while it thinned out some, so I went back to the school again. Well, when I get out of that grade, I went back to the other school again. There's quite a few kids around those days.
So there wasn't a small school out in Conway that kids from Conway went
to?
You went to town?
Yeah. Then when we moved out here, Conway, went up to Hill Grove School. We used to go up through the woods here. There's a roadway went from the shore right up through to Hill Grove, where the old farmers used to haul seaweed. So we went that way up to the Hill Grove. See, there's a school down here where the colored people had it. That was for them.
Yeah.
So we went up through the Hill Grove to that school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
when did your family move from
Digby?
Digby, near the town line there?
I think it was 42, I think. 1941 or 42, we moved out of Digby and moved out here.
It was after your mother died?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just before. Well, 2 years before that, before she died. She died in 1940. No, we moved out in 38, 39. 39, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, 39, 38 and 39. That was her place, her mother's place. This was.
Yep.
And
so exactly where was that house?
up there. It was up across the road on the hill there.
Okay.
The old house is gone.
Gone?
Yeah. And we moved up there. And we went to school up through the Hill Grove.
What was the main road from Digby to that house? How would you get there?
This was the main road here that you came on, yeah.
The Robinson Railroad?
Yeah, that's the #1 highway then.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's just a driveway up to the house. And that was the main highway then, out of Digby, such as it was. But there's quite a difference in that school we went to up there. There was 9 grades into one school.
Yeah.
That was quite a difference coming from Digby to that school.
Which school did you like better?
Well, I liked Digby better. That school up there, kids were it was a lot different. They weren't as smart because they couldn't be, because the teacher had so many kids to look after. You know, she had from primer class right up to grade 9.
Yeah.
She didn't have to teach grade 9, but after grade 9, I think grade 9 after, you had to go to a Digby or wherever higher.
Yeah.
And anyway, she could teach it if she wanted to, but normally they didn't.
So did you go further than that school? Did you go back to Digby later on, or you stopped school when you were in?
When I was in grade 9.
Grade 9, yeah.
I stopped school then, went to work.
Yeah.
Oh, most people had to work before that.
Yeah.
Lots of people in school had to quit work, going to school. I know a lot of guys going to school were big boys, you know.
Yep. 12,
13, 14. And they people used to remark, well, they're too big to be going to school. They got, you know, they sit in school and make a damn fool out of them. They got to get to work. So they go to work in the mills and in the woods and so on. So then they did. But you didn't get much for working. 5 cents an hour, 10 cents an hour.
Yeah, we've heard tell.
The going wages.
Yeah. So you started to say your father was a mason.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what he always was when you were growing up?
Yeah, my grandfather was too.
Yes?
Yeah.
It's a good trade.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went with him working.
And that became your trade also?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was lucky to be able to learn it that, you know. Otherwise, I don't know how I would have got a trade, you know.
Did that include all kinds of stonework or just brickwork?
Stonework, yeah. Brickwork, yeah. Yeah.
So after your mother died, how did your father manage? Joy says he eventually remarried, but how did you manage? Were there grandparents alive that could help you?
No, just my grandmother was alive, that's all, in Digby. She wasn't very able to do too much. She had Alzheimer's disease, not that bad, but you couldn't trust her too much, you know. Yeah. She could get along by herself pretty good.
Yeah.
But no, my oldest brother, he looked after the house.
Yeah.
Done the cooking.
Wow.
Looked after everything.
Even the 6-month-old baby?
Yeah.
How did that work?
Yeah, he looked after her too.
Yeah.
And of course, he used to get some help from some older women across the bridge there, cousins.
Yeah.
And but everything went pretty good, you know. But
everybody must have been pulling together.
Yeah, we had to pull together pretty well. Because he still had to go to work, you see.
Yeah.
Still had to work. He couldn't stay home. There was no work around here much. Well, the war was on. The work was in Halifax pretty well.
So your father did not enlist or go to war?
No,
not
the Second World War, no. He was in the First World War, but not the Second.
Your father was in the First World War?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not the Second, no. He couldn't, he wasn't fit. But anyway, he had lots of work.
But he had to go to Halifax?
Yeah, that was where the work was, yeah. That's where all the work was.
Yeah.
Had lots of work going on. Everybody else went too, I guess. There was nothing much around here till after the war.
So that's when your father came back, or was he going back and forth quite a bit?
Well, he went back and forth quite a bit, yeah. Weekends he'd come home, generally. But, well, after the war, then the fellows came back from the war, then they started building houses. And, of course, they needed chimneys and so on.
Yeah.
That's when he came back home, and then that was good for me, you see. That gave me lots of experience. And
so it was after the war that you started to learn the
Oh,
trade,
yeah. I started before, and then after I was working at it too.
Yeah.
And I done quite a bit of work. Done a lot of work down Digby Neck.
Yes?
Yeah.
That's where I live.
On the islands and around. Yeah, the island, I used to stay down there and top chimneys out and build new ones and so on. So it's quite a bit of I knew a lot of people down that way for quite a while. Now I suppose it's all changed some.
A lot of the families are probably the same families.
Yeah, the same family.
In a lot of the communities.
Yeah.
So Layton, what do you remember about your mother's typical workday before she got sick and with all those children?
Well, it's generally cooking and washing by hand, and cooking was her main thing every day, pretty well.
Yeah.
Making bread, that was a big thing.
Was that done every day?
Well, every other day.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't make it every day because they'd make probably 9 or 10 loaves at a time, you see.
Yeah.
Big batch. But, those days they'd wash about once a week, I guess. And that was quite a big thing.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd all help too, you know. Hanging out clothes and so on. And a set of ringers there and so on. That helped.
And everybody had cloth diapers in those days.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was the usual thing. And so we never bought anything those days.
Did your mother do some sewing also? Did you make any of your clothes, or?
Yeah, she didn't make too many clothes. No, her relatives used to do a lot of sewing and knitting and like that.
Yeah.
She never had time really.
Yeah.
She didn't have time for that, but she had aunts and like that used to knit and do sewing, and you know they liked doing that.
Yeah.
And my grandmother used to knit and sew a lot and hook rugs. Her big thing was hooking rugs.
Yes.
Yeah. And she didn't have much time for stuff like that. Time she'd do the cooking and get kids to school and get everybody dressed, and took a lot of her time up.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So your mother was pretty big on you all getting to school?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she was big on that.
Can you remember there being much reading material around your house?
Always.
Your mother did much
yeah,
reading?
always, yeah. She always encouraged that. Yeah, I done a lot of reading too. And I always read a lot of everything.
Yep.
When I learned to read, boys, that was great. Great thing.
Yeah.
I thought.
It opens up a whole new world.
I read everything. Those days it was more restrictive on the reading. You couldn't read them old Western magazines. They didn't like it.
No?
Said they were bad for you. But I'd read them if I could get them. No, I used to read the Bible and the story of the Bible, and she had those, and I'd read those to make you read them. I was about the only one that read the most, I believe. But I liked reading.
Yep.
And, well, I had a lot of other books, too. I used to get a lot of books for Christmas.
Yeah.
I read all the old regular books those days, Robinson Crusoe and Robin Hood and all them old stories that come out. Charles Dickens, and so on. They were all interesting.
Did you get those from your parents at Christmas or from other relatives?
Yeah, parents and other relatives, too. We send them along.
I have to check my tape, Layton.
Yep.
It's good.
So we enjoyed that.
What else do you remember about Christmas?
Well, Christmas was pretty good. We always had a good Christmas, pretty well. It seems as though the main thing at Christmas was oranges.
Yes?
But the first Christmas I remember, well, when I found out there was no Santa Claus, I remember that one. That was a disappointment, but I remember one Christmas I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I got a pair of little rubber boots, knee rubber boots, and on the top there was candy.
Yeah.
And I thought they were full. So I said to my brother, here, you take this one, I'll have this one. And they were trying to tell me, no, don't give that away. And I thought they were both full, but they weren't. No, we always had a pretty good Christmas. But what amazed me at Christmas those days was an orange. That was a big thing, get an orange at Christmas. And I don't know where they come from or how they got them, but that was the only time you ever seen one of the darn things.
They weren't even available.
Well, in the summer hardly, you
Yeah.
never see any. Because I suppose they didn't keep that good in the summer. Bananas, lots of bananas in the summer, but oranges, and at Christmas time they seem to come out from somewhere, I don't know where. But they were nice at Christmas. Boy, get an orange, great.
Where did your family do its shopping when you lived in, when you actually lived there? Was that on the town side of the line or on the
Well, just on the edge of it.
Yep.
Town line was just about a foot maybe over from us, yeah.
Yep.
No, we used to shop at the South End Grocery, you know where Sears is now.
Yes.
That was South End Grocery Store. Kingsley Collins had that store.
Kingsley
Collins.
Collins.
Yeah. And he had quite a grocery store there. It always was a grocery store, but he took it over. And we always went there to his store. And
it's a little bit of a hike. It wasn't that close.
yeah,
to
it
your
wasn't
house.
that close. No, that was the only store, the handiest.
Yeah.
And then when we get out here, we used to go across, just across the bridge. The Woodman had a store over there. He had everything in it. We used to use that store over there. And then, of course, Saturday night, everybody went into Digby. And Saturday nights, but that was the main store there, South End Grocery. We went there. He had everything. Of course, those days, everything was, you know, by the barrel and all open. And
Did your family rely on the store for almost everything, or did you
pretty
order
well. We
something, or-
had our own vegetables, but the store was for winter. They always got a bag of sugar and a bag of cornmeal, and for winter, you know, and a bucket of peanut butter, a bucket of jam,
Yeah.
by the bucketful.
Yeah.
Wooden buckets.
Wooden buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was for winter. So there was a jam factory in Digby, and a fellow there made the jam.
Oh,
It was
I never-
cheap,
Yeah.
and quite cheap, but it was good too.
Were all the berries picked around here, and then
Some, yeah, quite a few. Of course, the secret of jam was apples, the main filler.
Yeah.
But it was good jam, as good as
Yeah.
anywhere, but he couldn't sell as cheap as they could ship it in here from Ontario. So finally he went out of business. It was right across from Tideview Terrace,
Yeah.
along there, those pine trees. He had a small factory there, Cadozer, and he made the jam. And he put it around the stores. He put it in tin cans and tin buckets and wooden buckets.
Do you remember the name of him?
Cadozer, yeah.
Cadozer.
Yeah, he made the jam, yeah. He had a jam factory. It was right across there. And below him there used to be a big mill there. That burnt down.
Across from Tideview Terrace also?
Yeah,
Yeah.
down that hill.
Who owned that mill?
Sliss owned it. Sliss,
Yeah.
yeah. Then another Sliss owned a mill there where Mike Huey lives. He owned he was a wagon maker. He made wagons and sleds and stuff. He had a mill there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that? I don't know.
It was a foot of the
Huey
town
house.
hill.
Okay.
Foot of the town hill.
Yeah.
There was a mill there.
Yeah.
Quite a big place. He lived overhead on one side, and the rest was all mill. And he made such a wagon. Then Across from him was a blacksmith shop on the corner there. Yeah, there was 3 blacksmith shops in that area. One across there and one down from where Paul Winchester lives. And then one on the other side of Paul.
And blacksmiths in those days were
Shoeing
working
horses.
for horses?
Yeah.
Not, and that kind of evolved into serving the fishing industry later
Yeah,
years,
we used to,
much later years.
We used to watch the horses go by. A lot of horses and wagons those days and oxen. We used to watch the horses go by, and there was a guy Marshalltown had a pair of old gray horses, and they were wild as the devil. And when he'd go in, he generally, we'd ask him, "You going to the blacksmith shop today?" He'd say, "Yep." And generally, if you got too close to him, he cut you with a whip, you know. So we'd find out he's going to the blacksmith shop, so we'd all go down and watch. Because when they shoe his horse, one of them there, he'd kick.
Yeah.
And the blacksmith had a helper there. He used to kick him right out the door. So we'd go there and watch and wait and see him. Sure enough, he'd come flying out the door. So then they have to take the old horse over and tie his leg down. They had a place there where they could tie him. And they put a thing around his stomach first, and they had a windlass there, and they'd haul him up off the floor.
Yeah.
He couldn't kick with his legs off. With 2 legs on the floor and 2 off, he couldn't kick. And then they'd shoe him.
That was the exception
Yeah.
to the way they shoed horses.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to do all that.
Oh no, otherwise they just pick their feet up and shoe him.
Yeah.
You know, between his knees here. And he'd pick his foot up, and of course the old horse would start. And out he'd come out the door. He'd curse and swear and get up and put his cold cap back on, go back in again. he couldn't shoe him. They'd have to put him in the slings.
Why do you suppose those horses were so wild?
Oh, I don't know. The fellow used to beat him so much, I think.
Oh.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
He was a bad man with horses. He used to beat them. But you get a kick out of them old horses. Them fellows, them old timers, them old farmers.
So how about your family? Did your family have a horse?
No, my grandfather did.
Yeah.
He used to go to work with a horse.
Yeah.
Take him to work. But we never. We had oxen. We had ox. We had a single ox. I used to team him when I was quite young.
Yeah.
6 and 7. I used to team him around. But he just followed around like a dog anyway.
Yeah.
And
so that single ox was kept at your house. Did your grandparents live with you?
no, my grandfather died the year I was born.
Okay.
And we lived with my grandmother's quite a while, and we had the ox to haul wood with and so on. And we had one out here. Had one for quite a while. I hauled wood with him. And
How did your father travel to work and do his trade?
oh well, they bought an old Model A car
Okay.
for about $50, $75.
Yeah.
My oldest brother learned to drive, and they got around that way.
Yeah.
An old Model A coupe. Bought it in Yarmouth. A fellow in Yarmouth brought it up, and they bought it. They went to work that way for quite a while.
Where did your father get the bricks?
Oh, Terminal, AR Terminal. Terminal had a supply in H.T. Warren's. He bought brick there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they got brick from the old pulp mill. They used to sell them up there, those second-hand brick. They cleaned them and sold them. And they were really third-hand brick, because they were second-hand when they came there to the pulp mill.
Yeah.
They were actually second-hand when they got them.
Where was the pulp mill?
At the bridge, at the Beaufort Bridge.
Yep.
Yeah, see, when they tore down another one and shipped it down here. Used the brick over again.
Yep.
And it only ran for a day or two, and then they closed it. So, another political scheme, I guess. But
What's the story behind that? I think somebody started to tell us that before.
well, that was the story behind that was to sell shares in it, and sell stock and make money.
Yeah.
There was nothing to it. It was Didn't amount to anything.
Wow.
And they had a picture of it about that long, and there was more in the picture than there was up there. I had the picture here somewhere one time, and there's an old guy in Deep Brook. He's 86 now. He used to come see me once in a while. He still does. And I showed him the picture, because he was born up there. Well, he said that wasn't there and that wasn't there. He was showing me, you know. I said, that's why I showed you the picture. I was wondering. No, he said, they never had half of that. So, like he said too, it was just made, you know, they sold that to sell shares in it, and mainly to the Americans, and make a cleanup on it. So they did. But he said it run a few days, and that was it. They run one load of pulp out of there, and that was the end of it.
So they built the whole thing.
Yeah, they built it. Yeah.
Ran only a load or two of pulp.
Yeah, one load. They showed it with wharves and everything, but they never had a wharf there at all. Nothing.
So was it a scheme to get investors?
Yeah, investors, yeah.
And then I guess the investors must have lost their money.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was.
Wow.
Crooked.
What about H.T. Warren's? Do you
Oh,
have
yeah.
any good stories about that? Or
Yeah,
know anybody
I
who
worked
works
there. I worked there a little while.
We've heard you could always get a job there.
Oh, anybody
never
could
turned
work
you
there.
down.
Yes, anybody could work there. I went to work there for a little while in the winter. I had to walk from here in.
Where was it located?
Right across here. Right straight across.
This end of town.
Yep, right straight across.
Yep.
And it was a big mill, big store. And I remember the first, I never used to think much of it. The mill was always there. There was always a going. There was always smoke all over everywhere. And you could always hear the mill going, the whistle blowing. And there was a pond there at the foot of Town Hill over here.
Yeah.
And we used to skate there. There's a guy come along, and he had a bandage on his hand. And we sort of knew him. He worked there at Warren's Mill. And he said, so somebody said, how'd you hurt your hand? He said, oh, I cut my finger off in the mill. He said, you did? He said, yep. He had one of his fingers here. This one, I guess. He took it out of his pocket. He said, there it is, there. I just sawed it off a while ago. And it was, while I was working there, there was a colored chap there. He sawed off 2 fingers. I think he got $100 a finger compensation.
Yeah.
And he sawed off 2. He got the money, and there was 3 of them, 2 of his buddies. They all stayed drunk for about a couple of weeks off this money he got. He said he wasn't going to work again. He had this $200. And they bought this old wine. They stayed drunk for about 2 weeks. And he was broke.
I thought you were going to tell me his buddies decided to chop their fingers off too.
Yeah, they healed up pretty good and he went back to work again.
That was probably a lot of money then.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was a lot of money, yeah. But a lot of people in the box factory, a lot of people lost their... I was working in the box factory, but not on a saw. They had them little saws all over the place, and they went fast. They were sawing box ends, narrow ends, you know. They used to shove them through fast with saws.
So there was a lot of little accidents, maybe.
Yeah, I know one morning a girl sawed her hand here.
Oof.
And I heard her when she hollered. And the boss was trying to put me on that saw. I said, no. But it seemed funny when you hired on there. They said, are you going to school? And I said, well, yes, I'm going to school. I was still going to school.
Yeah.
And his daughter asked me, what grade are you in? I said, grade 9. Oh. And I went out in the middle to work. And we were putting box ends in something, and they told me to mark, you know, number 1s, number 2s, and so on. So I was marking it there, and somebody said, look at that smart ass there, he can read and write. And you know, I never thought too much of it, but None of those guys could read or write in that
No.
mill there. There was only a few. And the guy that used to set up saws and set them up and level them up and so on, he done a perfect job. Sawyer, he couldn't read or write either. When they go get their paycheck, they just make a mark, you know, of some kind. I don't know. They knew what they're making and get their pay. But it was one thing about it. You got paid every Saturday at noon,
Yeah.
and you got cash. It was good that way.
And do you remember what you made a week? What were you?
I
Just working odd hours?
Yeah, I
Just going to
didn't.
school?
I didn't work a full week.
Yeah.
I didn't. Sometimes I'd go when I could, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to. I wanted to make enough money to, because you had to buy your books for school in grade 9.
Yep.
Grade 10. If you're going to grade 10, 9 and 10, you had to buy your books. That's right. I was trying to earn enough to buy my books and buy some clothes.
Yep.
And sometimes I'd be late getting there, and they'd deduct me. Sometimes I'd get my pay there. I'd only get $6 or something like that. And then his son there, Rupert, he wanted me to eat there, and I said, no, I can get a bottle of pop, and that'd be enough for me. I'll go down to the cookhouse, he said. What do you think you are, too good to eat here? I said, okay, I'll go down. So I went down, and I went in. I was all ready to sit down, and they had a big pot of beans there, a pot like that. And when the French fellow was eating there, he said, my God, what's that? He said, and he held up a little mouse. He found a mouse in the beans. So I went out and I left. I wouldn't eat there. But I had eaten there before. It was good. They fed good. They fed a lot of people around town that weren't supposed to, that never worked there. They used to sneak in and get something to eat. They're good that way.
Did they eat for free, or did they have to pay a little bit?
No, they didn't
Nope.
pay. They're supposed to, but they
A
didn't.
little bit like a soup kitchen.
Yeah, that's right. The cook would let them in to eat.
Yeah.
And they made their own bread there and like that, you know. So,
Did they have cookhouse because did they also board people?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. They had a
Bunkhouse
bunkhouse, a
or
big bunkhouse, and they had a cookhouse, a big cookhouse
Yeah.
across from that. And that old cookhouse was going steady. They made bread and baked it. And they used to sell bread downtown to the store. Well, they had a store downtown first, big store, where the where the theater used to be,
Yeah.
Capitol Theater, and it burnt down. The store did.
Yeah.
It was about a 2 or 3 story building. It's a big building. And then they built the store up down across from the mill. They had everything in that store you'd ever want.
Was the store another, just another form of business for him to make more
Yeah.
money, or was it
Oh, yeah.
something that was necessary?
You normally had to take your wages out of the store.
Yeah.
You couldn't get cash.
Yeah.
Some couldn't. But she wouldn't let me, his daughter wouldn't let me take it out of the store. He said, no, take the cash. Because when I hired on, she said, why do you want to work here? I said, well, I got to earn some money for my books for school and some clothes. She said, all right. So when I tried to get some groceries, she wouldn't let me have them. They wouldn't let me have them, so she must have told them. So I couldn't get none.
But some people didn't have the choice.
But most of them took it all out of the store.
Was that to their advantage to do it that way?
Well,
Was it-
just as well.
Yeah, just as well?
They had to eat,
Yeah.
and they needed the groceries.
And the
You know.
groceries weren't any more expensive.
Oh no,
Or less expensive
no,
there?
they were a little cheaper. A lot
Yeah.
of stuff was a little cheaper, but they had everything: clothing and groceries,
Yeah.
everything you'd ever want.
Yeah.
I remember one time we were going to school. They had molasses come in from the West Indies, big casks of molasses.
Yeah.
And we always heard that they always put a little colored baby in the molasses cask, you know,
Yeah.
to make the molasses taste better.
Yeah.
So when they were unloading the molasses, one of the casks fell on the ground and broke. So we heard about it up at school. So I think half the school run down there to have a look. See that little baby in there. You may have to cut that out of there.
No. No, I'm just checking my tape. But did kids really believed that?
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
believed that?
we all believed it, you know.
Yeah.
Grade 4 or 5, grade 3. I think it was grade 3. Yeah. We all went down there, boy. We made a beeline for down there to have a look at it. And somebody said, "Where in the hell's all these kids coming from?" There's kids everywhere trying to look down by the railway siding there by the store. And that molasses cask was there, all broke out in the molasses there all over the ground. And but no kid. Everybody believed it. But he had quite a business. He built a boat, and he used to ship lumber, his own lumber on the boat, his own boat, down to the West Indies. He'd bring back molasses and coconuts and stuff. But I don't think he brought any rum back because he was a deacon in the Baptist church. He wouldn't do that.
H.D. Warren was?
Yeah, he didn't drink. He didn't smoke either because he had asthma.
Yeah.
That's why he didn't shave. He thought if he didn't shave, it was better for his asthma. But he chewed tobacco.
You can remember him personally?
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Yeah. He had some of his fingers cut off, too, because he worked in the mill.
Yeah.
See, he couldn't read or write either. And he worked in the mill when he was 10 years old. He used to brag about it. He worked in the shingle mill.
Where was that? Where did he come from?
He come from Hill Grove.
Yeah?
Yeah. He worked in the mill there, out in Hill Grove. Around Acacia Valley, there's that little bridge around there.
Yeah.
They had a mill over that bridge.
Yeah.
And it run by water. The shingle mill. He worked there. But he cut his, I don't know where he cut his fingers off. He cut them off in the mill somewhere. But he had these 2 or 3 first ones cut off. But the old fellow was smart.
So he had no education hardly,
No.
but he...
He didn't have any.
But what year did the company start up here in Digby?
I don't know. I think they started in the 20s,
Yeah.
around the 20s, somewhere along there. And but the old guy, when he was talking business, he always had a pencil, and he used to mark on his knee, you know, when he's talking. But he couldn't read or write. But he was smart, though. Well, he was smart enough that when he was building his boat, he hired some money from the bank, and he fell short of money. And he went down to the bank to get some more money, and they said, "No, we give you, you're not getting any more." Well, he said, "You can come get the boat then." And they said, "Well, come back here. How much more do you need?" So he got the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "You can come take the boat then." But he got enough. But he also bought an orange grove in Florida.
Just hold that thought. Layton, I'm going to flip the tape over.
Yeah.
Okay. He also bought an orange grove in Florida.
Yeah, he bought an orange grove in Florida. But that didn't pan out too good there. It was the first year they were going to harvest. They had a frost there, and it ruined the oranges. And he lost quite a bit of money, so he gave it up.
Yeah.
And then he started another mill out west, but it didn't work very good out there because when he started paying people the same as he did here, it didn't work very good. They run him out of there, got rid of him, so he stayed here. But he, you know, it's funny, but they failed up in the end. They had some company in Montreal invested money in it, and what happened was they were making, where they made their money was from the fish boxes.
Yeah.
And when they lost that contract, that was it. Keys Fiber put them out of business.
What was it called?
Keys Fiber. They made all kinds of boxes, strawberry boxes, and everything out of fiber and cardboard.
Oh.
That put them out of business.
Yeah.
That ruined them. But they used to make all that stuff, wooden stuff, all kinds of fish boxes. Newfoundland was their big contract.
Yeah.
And they lost it.
Yeah.
Because they went to the
cardboard or fiber board.
Fiber, up in I don't know where it was now, Amherst or Stellarton or someplace. When that mill started up there, then they could make it cheaper.
Yeah.
And that finished them on the wood.
So the main thing the mill was...
But it employed a lot of people.
Yeah. And mostly they were making boxes. That was the big thing.
Yeah, the box factory, yeah, that's a big thing.
And also lumber, like regular dimension lumber?
Oh, yeah, they made a lot of they cut a lot of lumber. They 2x4 and heavy stuff for overseas. They were shipping heavy planks. Of course, when they got them over there, they cut them up smaller. The lumber over there is, they don't build houses out of lumber over there anyway.
The stucco.
Yeah, it's all block and brick and stucco. The lumber's for the roof.
Yeah.
So they cut it up. Boards are about 1/2 inch or 2x2 for those tile.
Yeah.
Terracotta. But,
and the bricks that your father might have got from H.T. Warren, that was more just something he bought?
Oh yeah, he bought from Shaw. Yeah, L.E. Shaw. Yeah, well Tupper Warren, they called him Tupper, was H.T. Warren. But he had a brickyard somewhere one time. And, he bought a brickyard, but they didn't manufacture too many. So they bought, they weren't too good, so he bought them, yeah. Later on in the years, the company bought them from L.E. Shaw. And then they bought them from New Brunswick, Chipman, New Brunswick. So Shaw bought that out in Chipman. They had a brickyard over there, a big one. But the biggest one was in Elmsdale.
That's Shaw.
Yeah, that's Shaw, yeah. Yeah, only Shaw. He looked like Abraham Lincoln. But, yeah, Warren was mayor of Digby one time. He used to sell slab wood, you know. He had a truck that sold slab wood around town. See, everybody burnt coal in Digby, or wood.
I was going to ask you that. If the cookhouses, for example, ran by coal, probably.
Well, it's coal and slab wood,
yeah.
mainly. And they cut the slab wood up in stove wood lengths. So what Warren done was he sent a free load of slab wood around to a lot of the old ladies around Digby, the widows and like that, and some people. He sent them a free load of slab wood, you see. And they all voted for him as mayor. So after he got in as mayor, he sent them a bill for the wood.
Oh.
It was only about 50 cents a load. It was a small dump truck. That's the way he was, you see. But he was quite a mayor. He had a split tail coat he wore and silk top hat and everything he wore. Had a cane. Boy, he was a real mayor.
Where was his home?
Across from just where Bolivar Station is. It's across that big. There was a big yellow house across there.
Yeah.
Across the track. Not where the toy maker is, but the other one across there. That was his home there.
Did he have a large family?
No, he only had two, a boy and a girl.
Yep.
They were. He was married twice. They were half brother and sister, Rupert and Dora. She run the business. But it's a funny thing. The last 2-3 years she run the business, they paid the last time I worked there was in 1950 and 51.
Yeah.
They started the mill up, new boilers, bricked in new boilers. So I was there working as a bricklayer then.
Yeah.
We were bricking in these new boilers. And my father and I and another mason from down below, a French fellow. And we got well paid, of course. And we put in these big boilers, bricked them in. And they had a fellow come down from Montreal from the company up there that bought into it. He was overseeing the whole thing. And they took unemployment out of us, starting up pretty good then, unemployment insurance. So one day when we finished that rest of winter, I said, well, I'll go down and see about this unemployment. So I went down and they said, no, you never paid any unemployment. I said, yes, I did. Well, she knows, she took that unemployment out, but she never passed it in.
Ooh.
she said, and they told me down there, they said, well, she never passed any from anybody down there at the mill. Well, I said, what are you going to do about it? They said, nothing. They never done a thing about it.
Probably amounted to a sizable amount of money.
I guess it was. But the money was gone. They failed up, you see.
So then it wasn't long after that and the company was...
It was gone, yeah.
Belly up.
Yeah, it was gone, yeah. They tore down the whole thing. And all that machinery went for junk. It's a shame, too, you know.
Yeah.
'Cause it was quite a mill. But they employed a lot of people. And they employed a lot of people in the woods. And a lot of...
Right, I forgot about that aspect of it. They were...
Yeah. Well, every fall they'd start in about this time of year, and they'd build a camp in the cookhouse, maybe out Six Lake or someplace wherever he bought timber, and get ready for a crew of men, and they'd start hiring for the woods crew, you know, and the boss would go get ready and line them up, and away they go for the woods. That was a special crew.
Yep.
And they'd work all winter, and spring come, and they were done. And they had he had a lot of men there at one time. He'd go 400 and 500 men easy. Well, in the spring come, the Maritime National Fish, they started hiring people. And they'd get up to as high as 300 men sometimes down there working. They had a cod liver plant going there, you see. They made cod liver oil there. They cooked out the cod livers and so on.
That was downtown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That smelled terrible.
Yes?
The tourists didn't like it over at the Pines Hotel, but...
No.
made an awful smell there, but... I remember the first time I seen cod livers cooked was down in Tiverton.
Yes?
The old guy there was boiling them out, getting the oil out of them. And it was in the winter time, and all he had on was a shirt with the sleeves rolled up. And he had a wooden mug there, and he was drinking that oil. And I was drinking, here, sonny, have a drink. He said, it's good for you. God, drinking that clear oil. And man, he was fat as a bear.
Yes.
That must have done him good. No, they used to cook it at the Maritime. They had a big boiler there, and they had a guy run the boiler night and day, boiler man. And they had fish cutters, and they had a big crew, man. They had a mill whistle too.
Yeah.
And one would always blow ahead of the other one, his or Warren's.
Yeah.
And you hear it all over the country, the old steam whistles. But it was quite a lot of people employed in Digby at that time. Funny about it, now there's nothing going on.
So did it seem like a much busier place?
It was, yeah, it was busy.
Just bustling and busy and lots of people at the train stations? And
Yeah. But the...
love to have been there.
Yeah, the station had a restaurant in it. And that was a busy spot too. And then the boat would come in, and you could always make a few bucks carrying baggage from the train to the boat, you know. And then there was mail drivers and hauling the mail from the boat to the train, and the train to the boat, and so on. There's a lot of things going on, but that's all gone. But they sure changed. Never thought we'd see the train go.
No.
But it wasn't much good though to anybody. Really. So I remember one time I was working in Tiverton, and this old lady said to me, she was quite old too, she said, asked me where I lived, and I told her. She said, does a train go by your house? I said, yes, it does. Oh my soul, she said. Every day? I said, yeah, every day. Twice a day, day and night. And she said, you're some lucky. She see that train? I said, didn't you ever see a train going by? She said, no, I've never been off the island.
No.
She was 80-some, too.
Yeah.
You've never been off that island, mind you. Never seen a train on the track.
No. Do you remember who she was?
I can't remember now who she was.
Yeah.
I never asked her name, but she'd never been out of there. Never seen a train. Pictures and like
Yeah.
that, but God. I don't know what she done when she seen television. Well, there was television then. There was, it was just starting. Because there was a guy brought a television set over from Maine on a dragger. He sneaked it through customs. He hung the light up over the wheelhouse, or the TV thing. They thought it was a light.
Yeah.
They didn't know. Didn't know it was a TV. And he strung a wire up along the fence post till he got up the hill there. They had good reception. Yeah, it worked good down there. That's when they said you had to have every half mile or so, you had to have a big antenna up somewhere to broadcast, you know,
Yep.
to pick it up.
Yep.
But that feller, he just put a, oh yeah, he brought that home. Then the next time he brought an aerial. He put the aerial up on the wheelhouse and brought that over. Some guy lived right handy to the ferry there. It didn't matter. There was always a crowd around the house there. I just stopped in and watched it. And then I left. There was a ball game on. I remember that. It was the first time I seen a TV
First
working.
time you ever saw TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stopped in. I got tired of looking at it and left. But they brought the first TV around down that way. And a guy in Yarmouth made his own.
Yeah?
Yeah, mechanic. He was fooling around. He said, hell, I can make one of those. They said it won't work because you got to have a broadcast station every 50 miles or so. And he was getting Boston. Made his own. Worked good. Then he got it, so it was, color was coming in a little. So they come over from the States and bought it from him.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was doing something that they didn't have, you see. That's why they come after him.
He's probably a good inventor.
Yeah.
What can you remember about Sundays? Like, did Tupper Warren shut his mill down on Sundays?
Oh, yeah, every
Definitely.
Sunday,
He was
yeah.
a deacon in the Baptist church.
Oh yeah, every Sunday he.
So the machinery actually was turned
Yeah,
off.
everything Saturday at noon.
Yep.
Saturday at noon it was shut down. The mill shut down, and you got your pay, cash. Everybody got paid in cash. That had any money coming to them, and a lot of those French fellers that couldn't get the money. You know, you couldn't get money. A lot could. A lot got paid. Like the bosses, some of the bosses got paid in cash. They'd take a bag of flour, bag of sugar, whatever, and they'd go down to the corner store, the South End Grocery, and they'd sell it to him. Get some money to go home, so they could go home on the bus. And after a while, he couldn't afford to buy it anymore. He bought so darn much. So that's what they done. And where they boarded, they'd take stuff there too, you know, to pay their board. Some that didn't want to stay at the cookhouse or stay at the boarding house that he had at the mill, because the place was lousy, you know. And when they shut the light out at night, then the bugs would start dropping on them. So the old bunkhouse burnt down in the wintertime. One winter it burnt down. They never built another one. That was it. After that, they stayed at the mill. They had to board somewhere, so a few people around there used to rent rooms, and they'd stay there. But they never built another one.
So why was cash in short supply, or did H.T. Warren want it that way, that you would buy from him?
Well, he made it that way, so he made more money. But he
Yeah.
wasn't the only one. I mean, Hankinson done that in Weymouth when he had a mill, old George.
Yep.
He done the same thing. and they all done it those days. Everywhere. That
could you run your bill up too? Could you get credit?
Oh yeah, a lot of them were. They didn't dare to fire them because they were over, you know.
Yeah.
So they told them in the store to watch them, to keep them back.
Yeah.
Don't give them any more. Don't give them any more credit.
Yeah.
They were going too far. So they had to watch them because they get too far ahead of them.
Yeah.
And lots of times they fired people and had to go get them back, make them work it out, and catch up with them. They went too far.
But all in all, would you say that Tupper Warren was a very benevolent, good
He was
employer?
good. Well, I'll tell you, he was good in this way because when that mill closed, there's a lot of people went on welfare after he closed. A lot of them. Because he employed a lot of people. And they didn't work that hard either. Because when I went there to work, I thought, well, you know, I'll have to work like the devil to keep up with those fellas. And a lot of times first time I went down, you couldn't smoke in the box factory. So one day, nobody's looking, I jumped out the side of the factory and I said, I'll have a little smoke. And when I get down and I looked underneath the box factory, it was up high on one end, there's 4 or 5 fellas under there hiding. So I said, well, that's how it's done. But I went back to work though.
What were these fellows doing?
Nothing.
Just having a smoke too, or
no, they're just hiding there,
hiding.
loafing.
Oh.
They were just loafing. So then I had to learn to chew tobacco because I couldn't smoke in there, and I never got much chance to get out of there. I didn't bother. So I started chewing tobacco a bit, and then it's laughable about the old timers telling you what kind of tobacco to chew. Better for you.
Advising the youngsters
yeah,
what to chew.
what kind to chew. Yeah, they tell you it's sweeter and it's better for you. But anyway, it all make you sick until you get used to it. So.
Do you still chew tobacco?
No, I quit that a long time ago. I quit smoking too. But that's one way it made it easier for me to quit smoking, by chewing tobacco.
Yeah.
But in the mill, everybody chewed tobacco in the mill. The usual thing.
Where did you spit? On the floor, or did they have spittoons?
In the sawdust.
Yep.
And after a while, you chew the right tobacco, you don't have to spit. The old fellas used to say that's the best tobacco. That's the best part of the tobacco.
You swallow it?
Yep.
Or?
No, just keep it in the side of your chew.
Yep.
One time working down, I worked down Keith Potter's mill one winter after I left after I left school. Winter time, you couldn't do too much mason work, so they came after me to go work in Keith Potter's mill, and he was sawing hardwood staves to make barrels.
Yep.
They were shipping them to the West Indies, so my job was outside. I had to roll the wood on the ramp to the big saw where they sawed them up. It was 5 foot long, hardwood. So I had the worst job in the mill, and I didn't know it. In fact, they had two colored fellas on the job I was on. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They were only young fellas, but there was 2 of them. And I replaced them, one guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was working like the devil on the run. And rain or snow and sleet, I was still working. So anyway, so a couple of times it was snowing bad and storming bad, so I didn't come home. I stayed down there. They had a bunkhouse down there too, right there where Raymond Britton has a junkyard.
Yeah.
And so I stayed there in the bunkhouse. So there's an old French feller, And in the winter, they had in the bunkhouse, they had two oil drums, one on top of the other for a stove. And that used to throw in a tremendous heat.
Would it glow red in the dark?
Oh yeah, I guess it glowed red. So this, a lot of them fellas there, they'd bum chewing tobacco off this old French fella. He used to chew tobacco. He chewed it, he ate that like it was candy. He chewed 2 or 3 figs a day, this old French fella. So they'd bum him all the time. So one night, we're all playing poker there, playing cards, and the old fella was getting ready to get in his bunk. So before he got in his bunk, he had his long johns on, you know. So he took them off. And I said, hey, look what he's doing over there. So he took these long johns off, and he took the fig of tobacco out of his pocket, and he rubbed it all over his behind, you know. And he put it back in, and they all looked at him. After that, nobody bummed any tobacco off him. I thought that was pretty good. I said to him the next day, I said, that was a pretty good trick you done there. Well, he said, they didn't bother me for tobacco, did they? I said, no, they didn't. I just worked there for, started working in the winter, and the spring came, they closed it down because they couldn't haul wood. The roads closed, and they couldn't haul any more wood. The trucks would be overweight, so. But we saw a lot of staves. They had number 1s and number 2s, and you had to watch them. You know, if they had knots in them, that was number 2. But
why did they have to be hardwood?
I don't know. It's for the making molasses cast.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to stand the strain.
Yeah.
Molasses was heavy.
Yeah.
And it was shipped. Captain Bernie Melanson down below was hauling it to the West Indies, and they were sawing it for some company. Keith Potter was sawing it, and they were about, yeah, they were 5 feet long, and some were narrow, some were an inch, somewhere 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, but not too wide, not over 4 inches, because it split, I suppose, when they curved them. But we sawed a lot of it.
Yeah.
That yard was full of hardwood there when that mill, where the mill sat there, they made it into a house first.
Yeah.
And there's still a house there. I don't know whether this is a mill or not. But it's quite a spot there.
You say this is where Raymond Britton has his junkyard
Yeah,
now?
They had that's where the office was.
Yeah.
And across was the big mill.
Yeah.
And on this side, just above the office, was the stave mill. Small, it was a small mill.
This is near the intersection of Smith's Cove, or is this
No,
down the road
down towards
Marshalltown?
Marshalltown.
Okay.
Where he has, not Raymond, Roy Britton.
Roy Britton, yeah.
Roy, yeah.
Yep.
Where he has, so I worked there, and I didn't get much pay because Potter was poor pay. He didn't pay very well.
No.
No, he paid the married men cash, the single men by check. The check was no good.
No good?
No. Yeah. You had to wait for quite a while sometimes to get your money before it was any good.
So about how old were you then?
Oh, about 17 or 18
yeah,
then.
That must have been quite something, though, to be hanging out with the older men,
Yeah.
young and impressionable. And
Yeah. And learn to play poker and losing your money. So I worked there. It was hard work too. That mill was always hard work in the mill.
Yeah.
You're always working hard. But I ate there at the cookhouse, but they fed good. Yeah, they had a couple guys there cooked. They were good cooks. And they cooked some good food. A lot of macaroni and a lot of beans and a lot of prunes and beans and and they made bread. They made good bread, yeah.
Did
and
you have
rolls?
Huge stacks of pancakes for breakfast?
Yeah, pancakes, oatmeal, beans, lots of bacon. We ate pretty good there.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. Yeah. But I stayed home here most of the time. The guy up the road here drove a truck for him, and when he come home nights, I'd come home with him on the truck, and then I'd come home here, and then, but when he didn't, I'd stay down there, and some nights it'd be so cold that the old truck wouldn't start in the morning, so he wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
And plus he had a girlfriend down the road there, and he come home to see her mainly and bring the truck.
Yeah.
So if he didn't come up with the truck, I'd stay down there. But that place is lousy too, the fleas. Them old gray blankets, wool blankets hold a lot of fleas.
What did they take out of your pay to stay in the bunkhouse and
Oh,
eat there? Very much?
not too much. But I think it's about 50 cents a day, something like that. Yeah, wasn't too much.
No.
But 50 or 75 cents. But it was good food.
Yep.
I'll say that for them. They did feed good. There was no.
Well, they knew the secret to keeping everybody's spirit.
Well,
was to feed them well.
like he said, if you want to keep a good crew of men, you got to feed them.
Yeah.
You got to feed them good. Had lots of bread and molasses and bread and butter and like I say, they used to make those big, like a big casserole of macaroni and cheese, you know.
Yeah.
Only they'd make a big pot.
Yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah.
And easier for them, I suppose.
Can you remember anything about the stoves they cooked on?
Yeah, they had those great big old stoves, big iron stoves.
Yep. Did they burn coal? The coal in the stove?
No, he built. No, I'll tell you what they burnt. How I know, because where we saw this hardwood staves, we had to lug wood over for the stove.
Yep.
Every time we come over for a meal, we brought some wood over.
Yep.
Because we got hell for not bringing some over a couple of times.
Yeah.
The cooks had to go over and get some wood, and they got mad. See, because they could have been peeling potatoes or whatever.
Yeah.
So I used to get a bag and throw wood in it. See, because then the guy had a saw there with a double blades. It's called equalizer.
Yeah.
And when he run the stave through, that was 5 feet long, and he sawed both ends at once.
Yeah.
Instead of one and moving it up to get the 5 feet.
Yeah.
He just put it through the once, and that was your 5 foot.
Yeah.
And he threw the stave out, and I grabbed it, and I had to lug them out as well as lug it in. So those short ends, we had to lug down to him to burn.
That's all they burnt.
Yeah, that's all they burnt. And sometimes he had a hard job to get a fire going.
Yeah.
But I'd take some sawdust and wood along with it. And a lot of times the rest would pitch in and take wood down too. But once they got a fire going, they were all right.
I was just curious. I have a John Bull steel range in my garage that looks like it might have come from that type of cookhouse.
Yeah, there's big old ranges. Big stoves, big covers.
Yep.
And most all of them old cookhouses had big stoves.
Yep.
They went right down to the floors, no legs on them.
Yep.
Right down
That's
to the
what
floor.
I have.
Yeah.
My garage.
Yeah. Boy, and they get rolling good. They throw a lot of heat.
Yep.
They cook fast. And the old ovens get hot too.
Yep.
Big ovens in them. They were good. But they made big pots of tea and coffee. They made big ones. They had one of those big scoops to scoop it out with.
Yep.
They
Did you have desserts also? Pies?
Oh yeah, had pies and lots of pies, but mainly prunes.
That was your dessert, prunes.
Yeah, mainly prunes. Yeah, that was the main thing. All those places, cheaper and easier.
Yeah.
They come in big wooden boxes full.
And then they would be like the stewed kind of prunes?
Yeah, they'd cook them,
Yeah.
stew them.
Yeah.
But they were all right, they were good.
Oh, yeah.
But they used to make a lot of apple pies. And they'd buy the dried apples.
Yep.
And make them that way. So that wasn't too bad. But they then they made a lot of deep apple pies, like, you know, they make a lot of those big pans, deep pans with apple, and just run the crust on the top. Yeah, a lot of that. That made good pies.
Since you're that close to Marshalltown, can you remember anything about the poor farm or the poor house?
Oh yeah, that was running good then. Yeah, we worked there one time plastering.
Yeah? You and your father?
Mm-hmm. I went down and done a lot of plastering there. They done a lot of repairs one year.
Can you remember who was the
in
charge then?
Yeah, Guy Thomas was
yeah.
in charge, yeah. And they fed good there too. They had a lot of people there. They all liked him.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, they all knew him. They all liked him.
Yep.
And he had the women there that were in there, the inmates. They worked too.
Yeah.
They worked.
Doing what kind of things?
Well, making bread and
yeah.
sewing and things like that. And sometimes some were quite bad. They couldn't do nothing, you know. They
weren't able to.
Weren't able to. Gone in the head. Some. But there was in the long dormitories, like a lot of people in one room, a lot of men. I know. It's funny, but they never said much about it. But a lot of things happened there that they wouldn't say much about. I know when a Camo guy worked there quite a bit, and one old fellow used to make a mess in the bed, and they'd have to help clean him up. Well, one night he choked it. They smothered him with a pillow, I guess, some of the other fellas. They never said nothing about it.
What was the Camo guy's job? What did he do there?
Oh, he was just maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, he helped maintenance.
Had a regular job there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had they used to burn wood there and coal. But then they went on to oil. Municipalities supplied oil. But they lived pretty good there. When he was there, Thomas, he looked after him real good.
Was he the last?
Yeah, he was the last.
There before?
Yeah, he was the last one there.
Yeah.
He used him good, and they liked him. They all liked him. They figured he was the best they ever had there. They.
So when you were plastering in there, you were plastering the walls?
Yeah, walls and ceiling. Yeah, there's a lot of that old plaster was falling down in a lot of places.
Yeah. Where
the roof had leaked, so on. And we repaired one of the chimneys. That's kind of bad. There's quite a bit of work there.
Big house.
Yeah, it was big. Yeah. He had a big barn there. He had cattle, and they had their own milk. In fact, he was a good caretaker because it didn't cost the municipality so much.
They were pretty self-sufficient, maybe.
Yeah, they were. They had chickens. And
yeah.
They had eggs and stuff. And he was good. He was very good with the fellas there. He used to live over here, you know. He had a farm over here, and then he took that place over. And he used to bring some of the fellas with him to help him cut hay and like that.
Yeah.
They'd all come with him, walking along, some riding on a wagon, some following. And one day, he went home and left some of them. I don't know what happened. Anyway, they were all crying. They were scared.
Yeah.
You had to come back and get them.
Yeah.
They all called him Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he have a wife that also helped with the female?
Yeah, he had a wife. Yeah, she looked after the women, and they all liked her. She was very nice. She was kind, good with them, and motherly type, you know.
Yeah.
Because she had a big family too, and Yeah, they were good keepers, both of them. Very good. And better than the fellow that was ahead of them there. I won't say his name, but his grandfather's the member of Parliament here now. He's a bad cat. Yeah. Old Everett Lewis used to be the night watchman there.
Oh, I'd love to hear anything you know about Everett Lewis.
He lived there, you know, his family. They were put in the poorhouse.
Yeah?
Yeah, he told me.
So how could you come to be put in the poorhouse?
Poor.
Just poor?
Couldn't have support yourself.
Yeah.
And you go for welfare. Those days you never got welfare.
Yeah.
They put you in the poorhouse.
Yeah.
So he was brought up there.
So Everett was brought up there.
Yeah.
Grew up there.
Yeah. He lived there. He knew the place well. But when he was caretaker, when he was
Watchman?
night watchman, nobody went around there at night because he walked around with a double-barrel shotgun. Nobody trusted him. He was a nut, you know. He's crazy. He's crazy, that bugger. I put a foundation under the house for him, you know.
His house?
Yeah.
His little house, yeah?
Yeah. I put a foundation under a cement block.
Is this when Maud was with him?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, she lived in the trailer most of the time.
Oh.
She didn't live in the house. After a while, after she started making money, she bought a trailer. See, Lloyd McNeil, his wife, done all her business for her banking and everything.
Yeah?
And she wanted a trailer. She always wanted a trailer, so she helped her get a trailer, and she lived in that. He lived in the house there pretty well. But the house had, God, it was full of rocks, you know, all sizes. They had just a stripe on them, painted on them. All. You should have seen it inside. Everything was painted.
Yeah.
There was tar paper on the floor, and she had designs painted in the walls. Everything was painted. The stove, and there was an attic, little attic. There was no upstairs in it, just an attic. And he didn't want a stairway or anything down the basement. Just wanted to crawl in the basement. I said, "You're nuts." But when the Atlas Construction put the house over on the foundation, they didn't realize it's so heavy. Well, I said, "You want to look inside, you'll see why." And the engineer looked inside, and it was full of rocks. She had all these rocks she'd painted.
Yeah.
She used to go down to the shore and get these rocks, and she'd paint them. They're smooth. They had everything painted. God. Old Everett was nuts. He'd go to town every day on the bus, and he'd come home with 2 quarts of beer.
Yeah?
Yeah. Every day. He'd hide it. And he'd take his money. He'd have paper money, and he'd change it into silver.
Yeah.
Because he had pet squirrels there, you see. The squirrels would eat right out of his hand.
Yeah.
And I said, "Those squirrels will get your money, Everett." And he said, "No, they won't." As he changed it into silver, see, whatever he could get. So they couldn't get it. But he had quite a bit of money stashed away there. Well, not a great lot, but he had 4,000 or 5,000 in coins. Because when he went to the hospital once, he took it with him. They had to count it out for him. Make sure he got it all back again.
Count it out again
Yeah.
when he left. What was he in the hospital for?
I don't know what happened. Something happened to him. He had to go in the hospital. They had a hernia or something. I forget what it was. But Dr. McLeave looked after him while he was in there. But he never worked too much. He used to go to town and work in the flower gardens for the old ladies around, make a few bucks.
Didn't he do some peddling?
Yeah, he peddled fish in that old car he had there. Price of gas went up and he quit driving it. He just parked it in the yard there and covered it over with hay. Gas went up to 25 cents a gallon, I think. That was it. Oh, he told me. He used to stay there and talk. Well, he remembers me when I was only about that high. He used to come to the house a lot there, peddling fish.
Yeah.
Talk.
Then you ran into him again when you were doing this plastering job?
Yeah, well, I was doing this foundation, building a foundation for him, yeah.
Too, I forgot.
Well, I was doing one across the road for Jim Ross, and he came over there, and he knew me anyway. I used to raise the devil with him, tease him. So when Atlas Construction was doing the highway, they had to move his house back.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have anybody but me do the foundation.
Yep.
And they said, no, we got a guy. He said, oh, no, I want him, nobody else. So they had to come get me. Yeah, I done it for him.
So after that, the house had a basement? Or
Yeah.
did it have one before also?
No, it never had one. It
Yeah.
sat on the ground, just on a few rocks.
Yeah.
Just a few rocks in each corner, and that was it. Oh, the old house wasn't any good for anything. Falling apart. So it was quite solid, but I mean, it didn't amount to anything inside. It was all, cardboard and whatever they could find a nail on it.
Yeah.
But she had everything all painted. Well, he painted too,
But I've heard.
Oh yeah, he painted some, same as she did. But he went up to Lloyd McNeil. Told me he went up there one day and he painted Lloyd had a horse in the pasture. Lloyd had a nice collie dog. The dog was smart. Used to bring the cows in and things like that, and bring the mail in. Smart dog. So he said, I'll paint a picture of him, Lloyd, for you. So he painted a picture of the dog and the horse. And the dog was bigger than the horse. Lloyd said, I don't want that. He said, the dog's bigger than the horse. So he done it again, but he used to paint some after she was dead,
Yeah.
He said they were hers that she painted, but Lloyd said, you better not do that anymore. You'll get caught, That's crooked. So he didn't paint anymore, but she done a lot of painting. I could have got lots of them for pretty near nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't care for her painting. Oxen with big eyelashes, and he was a nut. She wasn't far behind.
Did they get along well, the two of them?
No.
No?
No, they fought like... Well, she was chasing around on him, for a while there.
No, didn't know that.
Yeah, that feller, he come home and that feller was in the house there with her. And Everett went to throw him out, and he beat hell out of Everett, so he had him in court. In Digby, that was quite a while ago. You never hear about those things.
No.
I don't know his name. He lived up in the back of Marshalltown, a farmer. Well, he's the guy with the gray horses.
Yes.
He was a bad guy.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. He was single. He had a farm up there. I forget his name now. But he was ugly. Can't think of his name. But anyway, he...
It's usually indicative of their character, if they're mean
Yeah.
to their animals.
Yeah, he was bad with the horses. Now, I can't think of his name, but he used to sell wood and vegetables and like that. And he had a farm down there on the back road in Marshalltown somewhere. I can't think of his name. I must find out his name sometime, just for the fun of it. Doesn't matter, but I know we used to, when the horses and wagons go by, we used to jump on and ride on the back of them, but not with him. He'd get you with a whip. And we used to spray the old horses with gravel. They'd run like the devil.
How would you do that? With a handful of gravel?
Yeah, a handful of gravel.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they run? But I can't think of his name. But,
How many years did Everett have this job as the night watchman?
Oh, for a few years. I forget. He didn't have it with. I think he was hired by the county. I think, not by the keeper, by the county.
The keeper lived there too, though.
Oh yeah,
Right?
he lived there.
He had to
Yeah,
sleep at some time.
yeah, and I don't know why they hired him at all. I can't figure out why. Of course, there's a lot of stuff around there. You know, they could have stole from the place. People would. And he, old Everett was a regular night hawk. He was a prowl around. He was like a cat.
Yeah.
But he didn't like TVs or anything like that. He was the old timer.
Very suspicious of
Yeah.
new things.
He couldn't read or write either. I think she could. But he couldn't.
Yeah.
He couldn't read or write. Him or his brothers, some of his brothers. Some were smart, but not him.
How did people make the leap from living on the poor farm all their life, almost, in an institutional setting? How did they make the switch to living outside of the poor farm? Or did some never?
When the war started, some went in the army that
Right.
were right age to go in the army.
Yeah.
And some stayed there on the poor farm and died there, and some they were taken to other places that after that closed.
Yeah.
I don't know where they went. There was other places, other institutions. Waterville, I suppose, some of them. And there was another farm down in towards Bridgewater. Go through the woods there somewhere. There was one down on Highway number 10. There's another one.
If you were a child growing up on the poor farm, would you be treated differently? Would you go to school? Could you?
I don't
still have a chance to
know.
go to
I
school?
don't know about that. They didn't keep any children there. I think they sent them to an orphanage or something.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't remember seeing any children there.
Okay.
There was never any children around there. They took them away from there. It was only people that were older. And I remember there was some girls that went to school in Digby, 2 girls. They were kind of, well, they weren't quite all there, but they went to school. They were, and their father and mother was all right. They lived they lived by the Catholic Church in Digby. They were okay, but when they died, they wound up down there, the 2 girls. Of course, they weren't girls then. They were about in their 20s.
Yeah.
And I often wonder where they went to, and I didn't know till I was down there plastering. I see them there. I said to my brother, "Isn't that the 2 girls, 2 bar girls that used to go to school in Digby?" He said, "Yeah." I wonder where they ever went to. I said, "Well, that's them there." Of course, they didn't remember us, and they had gone to school in Digby. And then, of course, after their parents had gone, that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
They couldn't shirt for themselves. Didn't have brains enough. That's what happened to you.
What was the end of the poor farm? What year was that?
That was in the 50s, wasn't it? Last of the 50s?
I wasn't here then.
No, I can't remember when it went out. I went in the army in the 50s, so it might have went then. I don't know.
You went in the army in the 50s?
Yeah. And I was away.
How long was your army career?
6 years.
Yeah.
I was away for 6 years, so I don't. A lot of things happened then. A lot of changes.
Yeah.
And no, it must have been in the 60s that it shut down. I know it was a fellow working at the base, Titus fellow. He was brought up in the poorhouse, but he was, yeah, no, he went there and he was young, but he joined the army and got out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, he went in the army. Him and his brother, two of them.
Probably saw the army as a great opportunity.
Yeah, he got out of there and went in the army, and they both had their own homes. But he was still a little, you know, he went to New Brunswick after, when he retired from the army, he went to New Brunswick. But I don't know what happened to the other brother. Well, the other brother died, I guess. They worked in a steam plant there.
How did you come to decide to join the army for a while?
Well, there was nothing going on or anything, nothing happening, and they were advertising a lot, so I went in the army.
Where did you serve all your time?
Well, out in British Columbia.
Yeah.
Then from there, I was there about 5 months, almost 6. Then I went overseas for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. Then I come back and stayed in Ontario. And I come back here again. Get out and come back here.
Where did you go overseas?
Over in Germany.
Yep.
Stayed there for 2 years, and I come back here, come back to Ontario. Then we come back here.
Petawawa? Or
Yeah,
something
Petawawa.
Like that? Yeah.
Stayed there for 3 years. Then I come back here, and things were no better back here than when I left.
Were you married at that time?
Yeah.
Were you married at that time? Had a family, and your family moved with you?
I had no family, just my wife.
Just your wife and you? Yeah.
Yeah. She went over too after a while, after I got over there. And then we come back to Petawawa. Stayed there for 3 years. Then
What was your trade in the army?
Well, I was in the engineers.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get any trade in the army because they were full up, so the only thing I could get was a driver mechanic. So I went on to driver mechanic.
Yeah.
So big driver mechanic. Well, I went on a mechanics course, and I was 20-some on it. I came second on the course. So, but I never worked at it.
See, that all stems from your love of reading as a child.
Yep, probably. Oh, well, I studied the course, yeah. Between that and the practical, I came second. I would have came first, but they asked me a question about diesel, and I never had anything on the diesel. And a diesel starts by friction, and the other motor is by spark. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never thought.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking. I missed out on that one question.
Yeah.
Or I'd have came first. Of course, every course you take, you have to know first aid and plus fire.
Yep.
Well, that was no problem.
Oops, we're going to just pause a second here, maybe take a break. Probably sick of answering all these questions here. I wouldn't mind getting a few more stories from you, though, if you felt like it.